the session is you will have some kind of basic knowledge about what's Appium and what are why do we use Appium and what is Appium and how do we use Appium to write our test cases. So before that, how many of us have experience in mobile testing? Have worked on mobile
testing using Selenium reference.
Okay. How many of us have Appium experience already? None of us. Good. Okay. And how many of us use mobile apps? Almost all of us. So this shows the importance of of what mobile testing is, right? So we are moving slowly towards mobile. So let's see about what is mobile testing, why what's Appium, why Appium, and how do we test using Appium. So what is Appium? Appium is an cross-platform automation tool for mobile. So what do you mean by cross-platform? You can execute your Appium scripts across iOS, across Android, and across your Windows system. So previously it was only Appium supported only iOS and Android. Now it is plugged in the Windows support as well. From in 2015. So what is the other thing about Appium? You can run your Appium tests across all the types of apps. So what are the types of apps available in our market? What are different types of apps?
Native library.
Yeah. So what's native app?
Specific to particular OS. You work on Android.
Right. So it works only on one particular operating system. What's in mobile web app?
Mobile browser.
Yeah. So all your applications which are opened by a web browser should be responsive to your mobile browsers as well. And what is hybrid? Hybrid is a combination of both. Okay. And so what are the languages which Appium supports? Yeah. So what are the languages which WebDriver supports?
Java.
Yes, almost all of the languages. So Appium is an extension of your WebDriver, of your Selenium WebDriver, and it also has some kind of mobile-specific actions. So, and hence, Appium also supports all of your WebDriver compatible languages. So, why Appium? So, one thing which we saw about Appium is your cross-platform ability. You can run your tests across your platforms. So, which introduces your code to be reusable across your platforms. You can write a single code, and you can use it to run in your Android and iOS. What will be different in both of these? So what's different in this? It's just your locators and your capabilities. So I'll talk in the next slides about what is the capabilities. And what is the other thing? As you have seen, you can write your test in all the languages. It's not like language dependent. And other thing is, it can support any kind of test frameworks. So what are the commonly available test frameworks?
TestNG.
So, what are the, TestNG is one of the framework. So, what type of framework it is? It is a TDD framework. So, and you have another one framework called as BDD framework. So, Appium works with both TDD and BDD. It can be integrated with both of your frameworks. And the other thing is, it has good community support. So, whatever bugs or whatever issues you face, wherever you are stuck, just write your Appium discuss blog and you'll get it answered in just 1 or 2 days. So now we have seen what is Appium and why do we use Appium. So how Appium works? How is that cross-platform ability possible? So here, before going into how it works, you need to understand some concepts. So we have something called as an Appium client, and then you have something called as an Appium server. And there is another terminology called as your Appium capabilities, desired capabilities. And there's another concept called as your session, Appium session. So what is your Appium server? Any guesses? It's just a, it's just like an any other server which can accept your commands, and it can forward it to the uh, respective APIs, and it can call your respective APIs. So Appium server is written in your Node.js. And what is an Appium client? So just like how you have your WebDriver clients, you have your Appium clients. As I already told you, the WebDriver so Appium clients are an extension or a wrapper around your WebDriver clients. So you also have your Appium specific actions embedded to it. So in WebDriver you have something called as click. In Android, in Appium you have something called as tap. And along with the elements, so your element finding strategy and all is same in Appium and WebDriver. So it's also easy to use Appium if you know WebDriver beforehand. And okay, now let's get into the working. So what happens is your test script will have your Appium client, which can be your Java client, your Ruby client, or any of your favorite languages, clients in your favorite languages, which sends HTTP requests. So now how the communication happens between your Appium client and your Appium server. So the communication happens through something called as a mobile JSON wire protocol. So what's the common protocol used in Selenium? Right. So Selenium uses your JSON wire protocol, and what Appium uses is your mobile JSON wire protocol. So it's nothing but your JSON wire protocol which conforms to mobile. And then so once your test script sends a command to your Appium server, so you have to start your Appium server first. First, your server will start listening for your commands from your Appium client. Once it recognizes some command from your Appium client, it will send it. It will first figure out what is the platform or what are the capabilities that is mentioned in the Appium client, and where should I direct these requests to. So you have something called as desired capabilities, which tells your Appium server that this test is intended to go to your iOS app, and you can also tell your Appium server that this test is intended to go to your Android app. So Appium server identifies that what kind of capability your client sends to Appium server, and it redirects the request accordingly. Are you on the same page?
No, repeat.
Same. Okay, repeat. So in your test script, if you have an action called as click, so before click you have to just consider a normal Selenium code. What you would do? First you would do instantiate your WebDriver, and then you start sending your commands. So here what you do is you instantiate your Appium driver. And here we have, since we have cross-platform ability of Appium, you have to send your, you have to add another capability to your say Appium driver, saying that this command is intended to your Android, and then it will identify your Android device which is connected to your Appium server, and it redirects the Android command accordingly to your test device. Likewise, for your iOS app, you tell your Appium server that this command is intended for your iOS, and then it redirects the request accordingly. While writing our code, you'll be able to clearly distinguish what this desired capabilities does. And Appium server, what it happens is you have something called as an UI automator. So have any of you guys used UI automator? So UI automator is your testing library which is provided by your Android. It's your Android native test framework. And in iOS you have something called as UI automation, which is your iOS related test framework. So what happens is Appium server, how does it pass your actions to your Android and iOS devices? So first what it will do is, Appium server has a client which sends your request to your Android server. And so Appium server, once it identifies the client is for the request is for your Android client, it respectively calls your Android server and tells your Android server to install something called as a Bootstrap. So Bootstrap, what it will do is it will talk directly to your UI automator. So UI automator will be able to perform all your actions which you want your selling Appium driver to do, like your click actions, your menu settings actions, your home button press actions. All of these will be done by your UI automator. So So already we have UI automator in place. Why are we adding another layer on top of it? Why are we adding Appium on top of it? UI Automator is an JUnit testing library, so it can be written only in Java. So your Appium server is written in such a way that it translates all of your other language code into Java, which your UI Automator can understand. And that's how all of this support for different languages come in place. So likewise, for your UI automation, your Appium server will send, you have a client, an iOS client inside your Appium server, which will be sending request to your Appium, your iOS server. So the iOS server will see if there is an Bootstrap already installed in the device. If not, it will push a Bootstrap .js app to your iOS, and that's how all your click actions and your home button pressing actions will happen in iOS. So this is how it works. Any doubts in this? Or am I clear till now? Stop me if you have any questions. So I forgot to tell you something about your sessions. So Appium server, what it does is it has capability to handle multiple requests from multiple devices. Okay, so when you're consider parallel execution, where your Appium server will get requests from multiple client devices. So in that case, it has to know what client is sending your request, and you have to acknowledge back to the client saying that your request is processed and this is your response. So for that, you have something called as a session. So whenever your test script initiates a request to your Appium server, a session gets established, and all of the actions or all of the text will happen in context of that session. So each test script or each Appium client will have an active Appium session with your Appium server. So next comes your version support. What are the versions which your Android app supports? Your Appium supports for your Android app. So you have Android 4.2. So how many of your mobiles are in latest versions? Which is like 5. Android version 5.
More than 6.
Okay. So most of our devices would be, most of our devices Android versions might be ranging from 4.4 till 5, 5.1 and 6. So what Appium does for Android is, it supports versions from 4.2 to above. For what will happen to your versions below that? So you have versions 2.3 to 4.4 which is supported by Selendroid. So both of these are present inside your Appium. What Appium does is, when you set your capabilities that this is my this is the version of my Android app which I'm going to test, your Appium will identify what Android version it is. If it is 4.4, it will switch it to your it will switch it to your Appium. If it is less than 4.4, it will switch it to your Selendroid. That's how the switching between Selendroid and Android Selendroid and your Appium happens. And it also supports Windows where you have your latest, where you have your Windows version 10. How many of you have your Windows phone? No one has finger spoon. So till now, is it clear? Except for the capabilities part, which might be confusing for few of you folks. Clear now?
One second. The Appium server itself will handle the self-provide request as well, like below versions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have something called as your desired capabilities, right? So in that you will be specifying what kind of version I want to test. So by that Appium will be able to recognize and it will switch the devices accordingly. So before writing the code, what are the requirements? We have talked a lot about server and client. So first thing which we would require is an Appium server, which has to be installed in your machine. And then what you would require, Appium client libraries. So you can your client library can be any of your favorite language. For now, I have chosen Appium client library to be your Java, which is the most widely used language. And then you need a mobile device. So in this case, I have used an emulator. So what's an emulator?
Virtual mobile.
Right. So what are the available emulators in market? So what's an emulator? It mimics your mobile phone by your computer system. And what are the available emulators? Your Android SDK by default gives you an emulator which is really slow, and the other emulator is Genymotion. I'm using Genymotion for as an Android device emulator in this session. So I have my Appium server already installed in my laptop, and I have my client library already added to my framework. And I have simulated an Samsung Galaxy S6 phone. Let's see how this Appium server is. So you just install your Appium server by using your npm command. Appium is written in Node.js. So what's an npm? What's an npm? npm is something like your dependency manager for your software installer for your Node.js. So you just have to write npm install Appium, and it installs your Appium server into your machine. So what you see now is an GUI wrapper around your Appium server. Okay, so you can install your Appium server in just via your command prompt, or you can go to your Appium site and download Appium exe file, or if it is Mac, you can download your DMG file. So this is how my Appium server looks. So once I launch it, once I start my Appium server, I get all of my logs saying that Appium server is started with this session. So before going to this, let's go to the code. Let's see how the flow goes. So I have used Maven as my build tool, dependency manager. And in my form.xml, what I have added? I have added just my Appium Java client and JUnit for my assertions. And what app are we going to see now? What is a demo app? Is a demo app is nothing but something like something like a notification or an alarm setter app, some kind of reminder app. So if you don't use your Appium server, if you're not working on your Appium server, just stop it, else it will drain your battery. Stop it whenever necessary. So this is your demo app. So where you're going to, so your test flow would be to go and add a notification here. Just enter some random notification and then save it. This would be your test flow. So now that I have my client libraries installed, I go and create my test class. So what is the first step I will do? So think in terms of WebDriver. Just try to relate how you write your test in WebDriver with your Appium flow. So what do you do first? Right. First you create your WebDriver instance. Likewise, you create your Appium driver instance. Then what is the next step? Launch your mobile app. So now comes your desired capabilities. So what you did, you declared your Appium driver, and now you are setting your how your Appium. What are the capabilities of your Appium driver? Whether it should be an Android driver or an iOS driver. Now we are writing test for an Android app, so it should be. So you should set some capabilities related to your Android driver. So what is the first capability that you have to set your driver? You should tell that what platform your test should run. So give your platform name. Let's say here we have created our test device to be your 5.1 platform, Android platform. So specify the platform version as 5.1.0. I have set it here. So next, what your Appium server should know from your test client? Sorry? Right. Next. Next, what would be your requisite?
Device name.
Your
Device name.
yes. Next should be your device name. Let's give it as Android emulator. Next comes your app location. So what I have did is I have my my Android APK device and put it in Android APK file and put it inside my project. So now I get the path of it and make my and specify the path where my app is installed. So now what I have done, my driver knows what platform what is the platform my test is going to run, what's the platform version, what's the device name, and your app location from where you have to pick up your app. So now I set all of these capabilities to my Appium driver. So here, what are the driver types your Appium driver gives? You have your iOS driver and you have your Android driver. So I set it with my Android capabilities. So now what happens? I have already, so there is some kind of redundancy here. Are you able to figure out what is that redundancy? Or some kind of duplication I've done here.
You have declared as Appium.
Sorry? So what duplication I have done here is, I have already set my platform name to be Android. Why am I creating another Android driver? So if I set this, I don't have to do this. If I create my Android driver itself, I don't have to specify my platform name. It's not that mandatory. So since you have created an Android driver instance, it will always try to launch an Android driver. You don't have to explicitly specify your platform name. So this is how your app gets launched. So what is the next step? Write your test. So you have launched your app. What is the next step you'll do in Selenium? What action are we trying to do here? Click on add notification button, then type some details, save your notification. So I have what I have to do is I have to find this add notification button now. So how do I find it? So in your Selenium, you have something called as fire path, fire batch, so many things to identify your elements. So Appium also provides something called as Appium inspector. So for you to identify your objects, you have to first tell your Appium server that what is my app I have to launch and what is my app's platform and what's my app version. So all the desired capabilities which you have told from your script, you have to mention it to your Appium server for it to launch your inspector. Are you getting why I am doing this? Same page.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, Appium has two options, your Android and iOS. Now we are using an Android app. So click on Android. You have to specify your app path. Then specify your app package. But wait for package, launch package, and wait activity is not mandatory. You can skip it. And since it's a native app, come to the capabilities. Set your platform as Android, and automation will by default be Appium. So once you set your platform to Appium or Selendroid, your platform versions will also change. So automation name will switch according to your platform versions. Then give your device name. Device name is one important thing which you have to set here. Give your correct device name. And then in your advanced, you have to specify your Android SDK path. Because Appium at the behind, it uses your UI automator. So UI automation viewer. So what is that? It is an Android native element finder, Android native way of finding elements. It comes by default with your SDK. So this invokes your SDK and leverages your Android UI automator to get your elements, to fetch your elements. So give your Android SDK path correctly. That's one important thing. Then you don't have to specify anything in your server address, since I am running my test in my same machine where I have my client and where I have my Appium server. I don't have to specify my server address. It's all by default. And you can, this Appium server by default has these kind of capabilities where you can pre-launch your application, kill processes if you don't want, and kill process before launching the launching another test. And you can use your Selenium to run as an Selenium server, Appium server to run as an remote server. You can set your command timeout for your Appium server. So command timeout is your Appium server level, not at your element level. And these are very rarely used things. So what's your Appium doctor? It's just an dependency check manager. So once you have installed your Appium server, just run your Appium doctor to see the health of your Appium server. So now let's launch the inspector. So before launching the inspector, start your Appium server. Okay. So looks like my Android device is not recognized. Let me go to my SDK path and start my ADB devices. So now my device is recognized. So ADB is nothing but your Android debug bridge. It allows you to get your device status, device health, and your device logs. So now I go back to my Appium server and then start the inspector. I think it's already late, so let's go quickly over it. Let me know if I'm too fast in some places or if I'm confusing in some places. So this is the element hierarchy, the view of your the hierarchy structure of your element. So this also has some kind of the red boxes which shows which element are you navigating to. Same like your Firefox inspector. So now we need our plus button. So we have come to our frame layout where we are able to identify the top navbar. Next comes your plus button area, the activity frame in which your plus button is present. So now we have got our plus button.
You can select with the mouse.
Sorry?
Can you select with the mouse?
Select with the mouse, yeah.
No,
You can also directly click on the place. Yeah,
Okay.
that's also possible. Just go and click here. It also provides some kind of record and playback tools like your Selenium ID. You can just click on tap in this button. So I have my image button selected and click on tap. It does the tap action and also it gives you some kind of predefined record and playback options. So now you have done this. I go and select this element and I send some text. So it will execute the test, the script, and it also gives you some kind of code, just like your Selenium ID. So now let's quickly inspect this test element. So how will your how your elements looks like in Android? So it has by default. What are your common locators in Selenium? XPath, CSS.
ID, general.
Okay. So likewise in Android you don't have your CSS options. You can still use XPath. You have something called as text, and you have something called as type, which is similar to your class name, and you have something called as content description, which is similar to your accessibility ID. So
We have XPath also, right?
yeah, we have XPath also as suggestions here. So I'll just go to another test which I've already created, where I have set my desired capabilities. I have my platform version, device, app specified, like what we have written already, and then I go and click on create notification. So now what I have used here, I have used find element by ID, and I clicked on the create button. Likewise, I have used find element by class name, XPath, and accessibility ID. So your class name is nothing but it corresponds to your type in your Android tree, Android hierarchy, and it accessibility ID is nothing but your content description. So in this case, this element doesn't have any content description. And you put your actions here. So I have written some pre-written code here. Let's try to execute it now. So for that, you have to stop your inspector, stop your application, stop your server, and then before you run your test, launch your server. Here the logs. Launch your server and run your test. So what Appium does automatically is, if it finds already your APK version available in your device, it will skip some steps. It will not install it again. So it will leverage your already installed Appium, already installed APK app, and continuous actions on it. So yeah. So now it has done all of the actions. We don't have any kind of error logs. So this displays all of the actions, the logs of all of the actions which happens. By this you will be able to identify if what is the problem. Is it with the Appium server, or is it with the action, or is it with the element? Is the element not available in the frame? Something like that. So now your test is passing. Now what we will do is, we'll quickly look into some kind of APIs which Appium provides, which is specific to your mobile. So what are the mobile specific actions? Right. So swipe, scroll, all of these are your mobile specific actions. Appium gives such kind of actions, allows you to do such kind of actions. So let's say, for example, I have written a scroll function here, which will scroll to the end of the. So what I'm trying to do in this test is, I create 5 notifications, 8 notifications, and then I scroll down to the bottom. So I do a scroll action here. For that, I have something called as my touch actions API. So similar to your WebDriver actions, you have something called as touch actions in your Appium. So what touch action does? You can do your press, release, move to, swipe, and all of these wait, long press, all of these with your touch actions. And so what you have to do is already your touch actions is available. Touch actions class is available. Just create an object to your touch actions class, and then go ahead with the series of operations which you will have to perform. So in case of scroll, what are the options you will perform? Just first what you will do is press on one element, and how your finger action would be. So press on one element, then go navigate to some extent and touch on another element. So it will be a point to point movement. So that's what we are doing here. Just press on an coordinate, a given coordinate, and wait, press, wait, and then move to some other coordinate, and then do a release. So this is how your touch action behaves. So perform touch action is something which, so after specifying that these are the series of actions you have to do, like press here, move here, and then release here, you build all of these actions, and then you send the command to your driver. This is how you do in your actions API. Likewise, even here, you will tell your, instead of telling build.perform, you tell your Appium driver that perform this action, perform touch action. So this is about touch actions. There is another one thing called as your multi-touch. So in Android, you also have to. Let's consider you're deleting some images from your gallery. What will it do? You go and select multiple images and then delete it, right? It has a multi-select action. It can be done using your Appium. So what you have to do is first pass an action which you wanted to do. So let's say the scroll action in one step, and then a select action in another step, and then pass both of it, add both of it, and tell your driver to perform this action. That's what we're doing here. So now what we'll do is we'll just run this test and see how the scroll action works. So we have the Appium server running. So Appium server is, so what the test is doing, it's just trying to create a list of notifications and then scroll down to the last notification. As you know, emulators are really slow. Your test will also slow down if you run your test in emulator. If you do it in your real device, so it will create 8 notifications and then scroll down. So that's it I have for this session. Any questions?
How is it different from C test?
Sorry?
C test is another tool, right, for mobile apps?
For C-test. So, other few commonly used mobile automation frameworks are Calabash, Robotium.
Again from ThoughtWorks.
Sorry? No, this is from Sauce Labs.
So what is that OS which C supports?
C test, SWE test.
C-test automation.
Yes, EE test.
I've heard of which.
It's from Xperia, I think. Xperia. Right?
Okay. Is it for Android or iOS?
It's supposed
Both.
to be, I think.
Both.
Similar to like web with a mobile.
Okay. There are also platform-specific tools. For example, if you want to just have a tool for just Android or just iOS, there are specific tools like Selendroid. It is a wrapper around Selenium, which is only for Android. And you also have something specifically for iOS, say keep it function, so it's only for iOS. So in case if you have this both this cross-platform, you go for tools like Appium. And there is also another tool. I think Monkey I think Monkey. So people stop using Monkey for now, and they are migrating towards Appium. But we also have platform-specific tools.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Please do write your feedbacks.
Okay, you want to write.
What this is
Okay. You mentioned if you're writing feedbacks for both of the sessions, you mention for which session your feedback.
So we are done with this, right? So in Chennai, we normally do this worker once in twice a month. So here we have started this, and this is our second edition. So what is your expectation? Like, is this okay, or you want something for the next worker? If you tell something, we'll get prepared with that, and we'll do the next set of worker with whatever you want, your preference.
Something practical.
Hands-on.
Hands-on. What do you prefer for hands-on? So we run hands-on sessions in Chennai. We run it for like sometimes we have run for 2 hours and sometimes it has gone for 4 hours. What is your preference and what is your tool that you want to do hands-on? Do you have some tools? Cucumber with Selenium?
Yes. BDD.
PGD.
Yes.
Any language preference in that?
Java.
Java?
Java.
Yes, please, if you find this session useful, please spread this word so that people come and attend. It's just a knowledge sharing, knowledge sharing forum among quality analysts.
And for the next coming sessions, if you have something that you want to share it here, you can do it. Just send the talks. We will finalize the talks and we'll send you the invite. You can just come and present it over here.
It happens twice. Like,
It's a bi-monthly event. Yes, so we have the ThoughtWorks vodka page which is available for you, and you can find the Chennai as well as Coimbatore pages, wherein you can find PPTs or the sessions from the previous editions as well. You can have a look into the talks or look at the PPTs.
So this today we had 3 sessions, right? We will upload the slides over there, so you can go and look it over there. And for previous session slides also it's available. It's
Because I checked.
so just search Vodka Coimbatore. You will get a link.
That GitHub link.
GitHub link.
But there is.
For Chennai, we
I
are
checked
doing
it.
it.
You just go down. You'll have the calendars like what went before and what is happening now. When you click that calendar, it will take to the event which will happen, and you will have like list of PPTs.
Those PPTs are not approved.
No, is it possible to have one more session on that about
On page object model.
or
I know we had it live streamed. You can watch the live
no,
stream.
that's fine, but is it possible to have explore more into
Maybe workshop kind of.
yes. Is it possible?
So
We can
Cucumber, Selenium plus this page or this model, everything can be clubbed.
Or any other framework that's currently
One thing which we think about is we can take on the tools, but it should be practically applicable for you. You cannot learn some tool and it goes without any use. So we just want to get your preference on it. Would page object model with Cucumber and Selenium hands-on do for the next time?
answer patterns. You talked about
Design patterns?
yeah, design patterns relating to testing.
Yes. You have any other feedbacks on the general event as such?
It's really nice, I think, in Coimbatore. So, time for ThoughtWorks. You're from Chennai.
Yes, we are from ThoughtWorks Chennai and she's now in back to ThoughtWorks.
Thank you for
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. You need to teach me. நான் படிச்சேன் நானு. ஒர்க்கா எல்லாம் ஃபீட்பேக் சொல்றேன். சரிங்க பார்க்கலாம்.
Presentation, workshop.
நான் ஆள்
Bias
பிடிக்கிறேன்.
tag. What is bias tag?
Maybe you have to give us a session here because we are not aware of that, right?
இதெல்லாம் வரல, இதெல்லாம் நான்
And
கரெக்ட்
with respect to Vodka Chennai slides, we will ask them to upload it. You will get to know, like this week we
Speakers
had
கூட நம்ம ரெடி பண்ணிருக்கோம். நாங்க ஏபிஎம் எனக்கு ஒர்க் பண்ணிருக்கேன். மற்றபடி இருந்தது நம்ம சாய் சொல்லிட்டு சாய் கிருஷ்ணா அண்ட் ஸ்ரீனிவாசன் இவங்க வந்து ஏபிஎம் ஜாவா ஜாவால வந்து கிளைண்ட்ஸ் டெவலப் பண்றலாம் அவங்களா இருக்காங்க. போன இதுல அவங்க தான் இது பண்ணாங்க. ஏபிஎம் வந்து அவங்க தான் ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணாங்க.
ஒரு half day க்கு
எனக்கு ஒரு 12-13 ஃபீட்பேக் வந்துருக்கல. எல்லாமே எக்ஸலன்ட் ஃபீட்பேக். ஒன்று மட்டும் ப்ராக்டிகல் செஷன். சீரியஸ் இதெல்லாம் இவங்களுக்கு என்ன ப்ராக்டிகல் செஷன் எடுக்க முடியும்?
எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு நிறைய கல்வி இருக்கு.
நீ நானும் ஹேண்ட்லிங் பண்ணுறேன். இதெல்லாம் இது சரி நான் கிளம்புறேன். ஃபோன் பண்ணு. ஒரே ஃப்ளைட் தான். நான் வெளியே சுத்த போறேன்.
நீ போற?
நீயும் போறியா வீட்டுக்கு?
எத்தனை மணிக்கு போயிட்டு?
இன்டர்வியூமா?
இன்டர்வியூ கேன்சல் ஆச்சு.
இன்டர்வியூ கேன்சல் ஆயிடுச்சா? சரி தனியா நீ சொல்லு. நான் 4 மணிக்கு இங்க வந்துடுறேன். 4 மணிக்கு மணி 1:30. சரி நான் ஃபோன் பண்ணு.
அவ்வளவுதான்.
ஃபோன் பண்ண வெளியே நின்று ஃபோன் பண்ணுங்க.
கோயம்புத்தூர் ஆஃபீஸ் பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணிட்டீங்களா இல்ல ஜெகதாதேவா? இவங்களுக்கு இந்த ஃபீட்பேக் அகலே எப்படி இருந்துச்சு? அகலே என்னோட செஷன் டூ ஃபாஸ்டா இருந்துச்சா இல்ல கரெக்டா இருந்துச்சா?
ப்ரொஜெக்டர்லாம்
பேனர் பேசிருக்கோம். பேனர் மாற்றி வச்சிட்டேன்.
சரி இது என்ன பண்ணலாம்?
அபி நீ வீட்டுக்கு போறியா? அபி நான் என்ன பண்றது? எங்களுக்கு நீ இருப்பேன்னு நினைச்சுல நானும் சரி இருப்பேன்னு நினைச்சேன்.
வேற யாரும் இல்லை.
சரி நீ போ. நீ வீட்டுக்கு சரி பரவாயில்ல, நீங்க பண்ணுங்க. ஆஃபீஸ் 4 மணி வரை தானே?
நீ சாப்பிடு, நான் வந்து வாஷ்ரூம் போய் போல சொல்லி
இல்ல
அப்படியே அங்க வச்சிருக்கேன்.
ஓகே
பென்
இது தங்கலையா?
இருக்க பாருங்க. சதீஷ் அப்படி கிளம்புறாங்க.
Okay. Once
See you.
again, don't say anything that you don't want recorded.